$1,000 a month, starting the day you turn 45, is about $625,000 by the time you're 67. Not a trick. Not a side hustle. Not a lucky stock. Just a boring monthly transfer, left alone for 22 years. I lead with that number because if you are 45 with nothing saved, you have almost certainly been told the opposite, that you blew it, that the window closed, that compounding only works for 22-year-olds. I think that message does more damage than the missing savings does. Because a 45-year-old who believes they are finished saves nothing. A 45-year-old who knows they have 22 years left starts on Monday. So in the next 10 minutes I am going to give you the actual plan. Where the money comes from, which accounts to fill and in what order, and the two levers that will move your number more than any investment you could possibly pick. Let's kill the shame first, because shame is expensive. Here is the real data. In the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances, households headed by someone aged 45 to 54 had a median retirement account balance of about $115,000, and that figure only counts the people who had an account at all. Only about 62% of that age group had one at all, which means nearly 40% of your peers are sitting on nothing. Read that again. This is not a rare personal failing. It is close to the national default. And there is a second thing hiding inside that 115,000, it is not a finish line. Somebody with 115,000 at 45 and no plan can easily end up behind somebody with zero at 45 and a plan. The balance is a snapshot. The monthly habit is the movie. My honest opinion, the most costly thing about starting late is not the lost decade. It is the year you spend feeling too embarrassed to look at the numbers. Look at them today and the lost decade is survivable. Look at them at 55 and the math gets genuinely hard. Before you optimize a single thing, go get the money your employer is already offering you. If your job has a 401k with a match and you are not contributing enough to capture all of it, you are declining part of your pay. A common formula is 50 cents on the dollar up to 6% of your salary. On a $60,000 income, that is roughly $1,800 a year in free money sitting on the table. Here is my point of view, and it is not a subtle one. No investment, no strategy, no clever account beats an instant 50% return. If you do exactly one thing after watching this, log into your plan this week and set your contribution to whatever number captures the full match. Step 1, non-negotiable, because it is the only place in personal finance where the money is genuinely free. Now the part almost nobody starting late knows about, and it honestly annoys me that it is not better publicized. In 2026 the standard 401k contribution limit is $24,500. But the moment you hit 50, the IRS lets you add a catch-up of $8,000 on top, $32,500 a year. And there is a newer rule even fewer people have heard of. If you turn 60, 61, 62 or 63 during the year, your catch-up jumps to $11,250, a total of $35,750 for that year. On the IRA side, 2026 gives you $7,500, or $8,600 once you're 50 or older. Now, I am not suggesting you can suddenly find $32,000 a year. Most people cannot, and that is not the point. The point is that the ceiling is not your problem. Congress wrote a rule that says explicitly, if you got a late start, you are allowed to shovel money in faster than everyone else. The room is there. Almost nobody uses it, not because they can afford nothing, but because nobody ever told them it existed. Knowing the ceiling changes how ambitious you are willing to be. One footnote so it does not blindside you, starting in 2026, if you earned more than $150,000 from that employer the previous year, your catch-up dollars generally have to go into the Roth side of the plan. Same money, different tax treatment, just do not let it surprise you in January. Fine, the plan needs money. Let's talk about where $1,000 a month actually comes from, because I do not think it usually comes from cutting coffee. In my experience it comes from three places, in this order. First, fixed costs, the car payment, the insurance you have not shopped in 6 years, the subscriptions you forgot, the phone plan, the mortgage you never checked for a refinance. These are the big, quiet leaks. Fixing one takes an afternoon and then pays you every single month for years. Second, future raises. Send half of every future raise straight into the 401k before it ever touches your checking account, and your savings rate climbs without your lifestyle ever feeling a pinch. That is the most painless trick in this entire plan. Third, and only if you want it, extra earned income. A few $100s a month from anything, routed entirely into the plan, is the difference between the $500 a month version of this and the $1,000 a month version. And here is the honest part. If $1,000 a month is nowhere near possible right now, do not close the tab and give up. $500 a month from 45 to 67 is still around $312,000. That is not nothing. That is a fundamentally different retirement than zero. The plan scales, start where you actually are, and raise it later. Now the part people underrate, and it is where the real leverage lives for a late starter. Lever 1 is time, not the time behind you, the time in front of you. $1,000 a month from 45 to 65 is about $521,000. Working to 67 instead pushes it to roughly $625,000. 2 extra years, more than $100,000 of difference. That is not because the market did anything special. It is because those final years are the ones where compounding is finally working on a large balance instead of a small one. For anyone starting late, the back end of the timeline is worth vastly more than the front. Lever 2 is Social Security timing, and this is the one I would think hardest about. If you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. Claim at 62 and your check is permanently cut by 30%. Wait until 70 and you receive 124% of your full benefit, for life. For scale, the estimated average monthly retirement benefit in January 2026 is about $2,071, after a 2.8% cost of living increase. Here is my commentary. For someone who started saving late, delaying Social Security is the closest thing that exists to buying yourself a bigger inflation-adjusted pension, and it costs nothing but patience. Claiming early is absolutely right for some people: health, a lost job, needing the income today. But that should be a decision you make with the real numbers in front of you, not a default you drift into. Go make a free account on the SSA website and look at your own 3 numbers at 62, 67, and 70. It takes 10 minutes and it reshapes everything else in this plan. So here is the whole thing in order, so you are never wondering what comes next. 1. Contribute enough to capture the entire employer match. 2. Kill any high-interest debt. Paying off a card charging north of 20% is the only guaranteed return in personal finance, and it beats any long-term market average you would dare hope for. 3. Build a small cash cushion, even just $1,000 to start, so a broken transmission does not force you to raid the retirement account. Pulling money out before age 59.5 generally means income tax plus a 10% penalty on top. That is exactly how good savers end up back at zero. 4. Push the retirement accounts up toward whatever your age-based limit allows. 5. If you have a qualifying high-deductible health plan, look hard at the health savings account. In 2026 that is $4,400 as an individual or $8,750 for a family, and it is the only account where money can go in, grow, and come back out for medical costs untaxed at every step. And 2 credits worth knowing about if your income is modest. In 2026 the Savers Credit gives you a tax credit on the first $2,000 you contribute, if your income is under about $80,500 married filing jointly, or $40,250 filing single. Then in 2027, that credit turns into the Savers Match, where the government deposits 50% of up to $2,000, so as much as $1,000, straight into your retirement account. That is free money most eligible people will never claim, purely because nobody tells them it is there. 2 things I owe you before you go build a spreadsheet. First, that 7% I have been using is the long-run stock market return after inflation. The S&P 500 has averaged roughly 10% a year nominally since 1928, which lands near 7% once you strip inflation out. But that is an average across a century, not a promise about your particular 22 years. If your real return comes in at 5% instead of 7, that $1,000 a month over 20 years lands nearer $411,000 and $521,000. Still life-changing compared to zero. Just plan with a range, not one confident number. Second, and this matters, this is education, not financial advice. I do not know your income, your taxes, your health, or your family. One session with a fee-only advisor, the kind who charges a flat fee and does not sell you products, is genuinely worth the money before any large, irreversible move. So let's tie this back to the only question that actually matters here. $625,000, under the 4% guideline, works out to about $25,000 a year, a little over $2,000 a month. Add a Social Security benefit near the current average and you are somewhere around $4,000 a month in today's dollars. That is not a yacht. It is a real, ordinary, dignified retirement, built by somebody who had nothing at 45. And here is the thing about your number. At 45 it is not set by your past. It is set almost entirely by what you decide in the next 12 months. Wait 5 years and start this exact plan at 50 instead, and that same $1,000 a month lands around $317,000 instead of $521,000. $204,000. That is the price of a 5-year delay, and it is the only cost you still control. So do not try to do all 5 steps today. Do step 1. Log in, claim your match, set up one automatic transfer. Then come back and do the rest. Your number is still reachable. It just needs you to start counting.